Once through an open portal, monsters from another realm poured into the world, and humanity faced the threat of annihilation. At that very moment, representatives of the world of swords and magic passed through the portal as if salvation itself. And thanks to their inner energy, they applied martial arts. This was the world of martial arts Murim, and also the land of demons Gehenna, the name itself reflecting hell. People who once ruled the land plunged into suffering and such chaos. However, soon the Awakened appeared, challenging the system by acquiring superpowers. One of the guys shouted to the people that they had been told not to get underfoot. These people began to be called players, and the people who were saved thanked them. The hero did not understand why people constantly brought problems in his presence. The second one explained that the person apparently had a high-ranking magic circle. Suddenly, the hero noticed some Cerberus attacking a vehicle with people and activated the status window. It was a three-headed werewolf that attacked the locals. The hero urgently called everyone with him, because they needed to catch a stray dog. Another guy only managed to shout after him that he was out of his mind, since middle-rank monsters should be dealt with by the Vulcan Guild. The hero knew this, but considered that they were clearly not coping with the assigned task. This was simply called real support. The hero threw a spear straight into the dog's face. All his abilities were clearly enhanced due to the impact. Nevertheless, the young man understood that his strength was running out. He asked his friend to cut off the dog's head as soon as possible and save him, and the friend whispered that he had never listened to him. The hero thought that the guy had always covered for him like a true friend, and at that moment he moved along with his sword. Only his friend was heading not at all towards the dog, but towards the hero and was approaching right behind his back. The next moment he plunged the blade straight into the hero's back. It was a real betrayal. He remembered the girl he told to run away. She also betrayed him, whispering only that she was very sorry. Everyone he trusted has now thrown mud in his face. When the guy fell into the mud, one of the employees stepped on him with his boot and pressed him deeper into the mud. This place was a burial site for the corpses of the Volcano Guild's monsters and a veritable hell. The hero ended up here a whole 5 years ago. In addition, his status window was not fully open. Suddenly a message appeared before him that he had been chosen as a source of chaos, and he was asked if he was ready to accept this offer, for his choice could destroy the world. The hero smiled and, without hesitation, agreed to this offer. Suddenly he found himself in some source of chaos. In the end, the hero beheld the legendary beings ruling the world, the Three Lords. Before his eyes were the long-forgotten legends of the three worlds, the three rulers. The Silver King who conquered the entire continent with a single strike, Volin Meeson. Lord of the world Einhart, who conquered the heavens with a single swing of his sword, the Sword King. And the goddess of murder, having destroyed divinity, the ruler of Gehenna, the queen of demons. Three lords were imprisoned in the world of chaos. The old man did not understand why the young man was looking at him that way. He was wondering if he was indeed the source of the chaos. The goddess smiled. She did not understand what the other two wanted from him, if the young man had been so suddenly dragged here. The guy at that time was thinking only about whether he would be able to take revenge on his traitors, who were now calmly enjoying life. The goddess suggested looking at this child, while others assumed that he was just some rude person. The old man assumed that if he had been chosen as the source of chaos and ended up here, then everything was quite simple, and now destruction was available to him. The hero replied that now he feels so much calmer. He really did desire destruction. The old man explained that in such a case, the retribution would no longer come from the guy, but from chaos itself. Voland explained that he would be deprived of a body and consciousness and would only receive news that the world had been destroyed. The goddess inquired whether this would indeed be enough, whether this revenge would suffice for the hero. The guy did not understand what else he should do. The goddess furiously declared that they would allow him to take revenge with his own hands. He had to fully experience what murder was. The emaciated guy wondered how he could possibly do anything with this pitiful body that had lost all its strength and become servile. Two men explained that if he accepts the power from them and can contain the very chaos within himself, that retribution will no longer be a problem, the goddess added. If he sets himself the goal, he can become the ruler of the world. They were going to help him with this, but only if he took over everything from them. The goal of the three rulers who desired the hero to become their disciple was not so important. The main thing was that he himself was able to take revenge, and the hero assumed that now he could call them teachers. The old man said that surprisingly it was not difficult to convince him, and that was strange. Thus, our hero became the disciple of 3 lords. After that, he began training in a world devoid of time and the very concept of death. And finally, he was able to enclose the chaos within himself. As soon as the training was over, the hero returned to reality. He thought that time had stopped immediately with the start of the exercises. He grabbed the one who mocked and trampled him in the mud and threw him to the ground. The status window, unfortunately, still did not open. He thought that his body remained in the same state, completely without strength. If it weren't for the words of the teachers, the hero would have thought that the past 100 years of training had simply been a dream to him. Woland explained that when he returns to the world of humans, he will lose all the powers he gained from them. The goddess explained that this would happen because the world simply could not withstand such power, and now there was also chaos inside the hero. Voland explained that when the guy returns, his body will have to be rebuilt to withstand the forces. In reality, the enraged overseer thought that the hero would definitely meet his end now for trampling him into the mud. He became even more furious and rushed at the hero with his fist, but he easily caught his fist with his palm. This was Meg Cheston's boss, who had been tormenting the hero for 5 years. But with such a body, the guy now should not have lost to him under any circumstances. The teacher once explained to him that even a peasant could defeat a simple opponent if he took control of his bloodlust. He said that ultimately the thirst for murder is about inner strength. The hero's eyes lit up with fire. He knew that now he was ready to kill his guard. In the next moment, with a thirst for murder, he had already pierced the commander through and through with his hands. Clumsy cruelty was bound to lead only to resistance. But fear, that's what chilled to the bone. The hero decided that from now on, this guy would tremble with fear at the sight of him. But it was necessary to hurry, before the people from the Vulcan Guild noticed what had just happened. The guy removed the chain from the barrier, and one of the employees asked where he was headed. The hero did not respond, but he knew that he was headed to the burial place of monsters, where toxic odors emanated from the corpses, which no one dared to approach closely. In this place there was a real hell, and here it was going to be reborn. Fearing nothing, the hero rushed straight into this pit. This was the perfect place to hone the bloody demon's technique. The teacher Voland once told him that there are various secret techniques, for example, the divine technique of the volcano. He explained that the principle was painfully simple. It was necessary to steal what belonged to another and appropriate it for oneself. The dark magic that absorbs life from blood to accumulate inner strength is the technique of the bloody demon. But to use this technique, it was necessary to create a Dantian inside oneself. Dantian is the source of power for the warriors of the Silver World, similar to the magical core of players. But if you were not from the Silver World, it was simply impossible. The teacher said that, of course, there was another way. No matter if it takes decades or hundreds of years, and no matter how many lives it takes, we just need to keep learning until we succeed. So, following the method that teachers had been developing for over 3,000 years, and after thousands of deaths, he was finally able to create the Dantian. The hero clearly remembered the process. The first step was to gather blood and energy. The second step was to create a Dantian to use the bloody demon technique. And the pain that he had to endure in the process was undoubtedly far beyond this world. The reason why entry into this area was prohibited was not only due to the toxic air consisting of corpses, but even in the mutants created on the basis of dead energy emanating from bodies. In other words, it was a den of the dead. One of them was just about to attack our hero directly from behind, but he failed to do so, as our hero immediately grabbed the goblin by the head. Each of their attacks carried venom, and it was impossible to kill such a zombie until you cut off its head. If the hero had been in his old body, he would have simply become another meal. But now he was already easily dealing with them. At last he could feel alive again. This was the realm of crimson blood, where one could devour the blood of an opponent and turn it into one's own energy. This had its own advantage, as the remnants of blood and iron were gathered and a steel ball was formed. This very ball the hero could release from his finger. The hero was going to devour all the monsters, leaving no trace of them. He killed them one by one with his bloody spheres. The hero understood that they were all merely his prey. He really felt his strength and thought that it wasn't so bad after all. However, the hero did not notice how a huge monster crept up behind him. But from the monster's blow to the ground, the hero merely bounced with the same imperturbable face. This was a troll zombie, exactly the level the guy was expecting. At that moment, the guard thought he would die and was shaking with fear. The former friend of our hero thought that this person was completely broken. One of the soldiers reported to him that he had called the other guards present during the incident. The guy demanded to report what happened with that guy. One of the employees said that Meg Cheston decided to teach a lesson to the loafing serf, and he suddenly grabbed his hand. The guy asked if there were any interesting details, and the employee replied that another slave was looking strangely at his overseer. The guy did not understand how he could watch. Was it really a thirst for murder? But it was only available to combat masters with inner energy. He inquired with the employee where that very slave was, and the latter only assumed that he had committed suicide. He told how that one went to the monster burial zone. His body must have already decomposed due to the poisonous fumes. The guy found it hard to believe, and he grabbed him by the head. He believed that the slave lied and reported his suicide simply to avoid going there himself. Only because some useless guard was beaten by a slave, he was not at all interested in such trifles. He felt how the slave's trail was destroyed by itself, and the employee lied about suicide without even finding the body. The clerk tried to say that he was very sorry and tried to apologize to the gentleman. But the guy didn't care. He just crushed and destroyed it, and drops of blood rained down from above. He told the others to choose. Either they would face the same fate, or they would go to the burial sites to search for that guy's body. The guy explained to his soldiers that these guards would die from the poison before they found the body anyway. When they returned, they would have to go check the equipment and head to the burial site. 2 weeks later, our hero devoured almost all the bodies and emerging mutants. Now he has reached the second stage of the bloody demon technique. He felt a strong stream of poison emanating from there. The power of the second stage in one's own blood lies in the concentration of power. Suddenly, right in front of the hero, an explosion occurred due to the concentration of force. Her instability to the poison was several times stronger than at the stage of the bloody essence. If she had not reached the stage of her own blood, nothing would have remained of her body. He knew he wouldn't last long, but it would be enough for a while. All the main preparations had been made, so it was time to move on to his main goal. Transcendent beings with high-level danger monsters were better never to encounter. Among all such creatures, the most noble were the dragons. Now there was only one skeleton left of him. Once a dragon came out of the portal. After a long time, the serpent appeared in full fury. Many players risked their lives by challenging him, and in a wondrous way, they managed to slay him. The world was engulfed in chaos, but the dragon's corpse attracted the most attention. Its blood turned out to be the best material in alchemy, and unique weapons could be made from its bones. The hero thought that the body was also full of poison, rage, and magical power, and that a single touch would make the whole body melt. But he was determined to take heartfelt revenge on the Volcano Guild. After that, the hero used the bloody demon technique on the dragon. Once he told his teacher that he intended to absorb him, but nevertheless, the teacher thought that it would be terribly painful. The hero was on the verge of losing consciousness. If he had not trained with the teachers, he would have died long ago. But his inner energy rapidly accumulated from the blood. Even though the dragon had long been dead, its power was still alive. It was incredible. He suppressed his inner energy using his own blood technique, but the reservoirs were already full anyway. If he stopped now, he would die from a sudden surge of energy. But if he continued to absorb, he would simply explode. The hero expected this, but was this really the final stage? The goddess once said that this is a very good question about what if it does not work out to absorb all the power. She explained that dragons are highly revered even in Gehenna. As the hero said, it might be difficult for an ordinary person to accept so much power. The answer was simple. One had to become a dragon oneself. The hero was very surprised. He did not think it was possible. And the goddess said that he had already received so much that the dragon would only be the next step. Based on what the hero learned from the teacher, he had to undergo one more transformation, and there was nothing impossible about it. For he has even swallowed chaos. Woland agreed that the transformation into a dragon was not a bad method. He explained that in the Silver Kingdom there is even a special name for those who acquire a dragon's body. In the end, the hero acquired a body of dragon bone. His former friend did not understand what was happening and where all the bodies had disappeared to. Even a guardian with the highest level was not capable of such a thing. He turned to the guard and ordered him to report to the guild that all the bodies had disappeared. The guard ran outside but suddenly flew back. An explosion rang out, and the guy realized that if something like that happened a couple more times literally, nothing would be left of the burial zone. This was our hero. Using his technique, he called out to his former friend and said that he was a traitor. Hugh was very surprised. He did not know that his friend was still alive. The hero admitted that it was sad that the other would not recognize him just because he looked a little different. Hugh did not want to tolerate such insults. He ordered the Blackhawks to kill him immediately. All the Blackhawks instantly rushed towards our hero. Blackhawks was a special squad appointed by the leader. Their skill level usually above 90, they were experts, about to become the strongest rankers. Secrecy was the technique of the Blackhawks. Trained to kill, of course, invisibility carries many dangers. One of the Hawks had just crept up invisibly from behind our hero. This would have worked if his opponent was an ordinary hero, incapable of sensing inner energy. But our hero used the third stage of the bloody demon technique, black blood. He used spheres of black blood that fired multiple cores and struck enemies. He absorbed the opponent's inner energy and then exploded. Hugh did not understand where his former friend could have acquired such a skill. He activated the information search skill to check where all this came from. Nevertheless, he found nothing, and suddenly something began to happen to his head. He had never seen anything like it. The hero assumed that his old friend was simply dying of curiosity right now. The hero assumed that he wanted to find out where he got such strength from, for he had never acted without first studying everything about his opponent. Hugh was angered by this. He reached for his sword and said that he was no longer the tank he knew. Now he was the leader of the guild raid. He shouted that the hero was ready to rush forward without even thinking about his comrades. The hero, in turn, said that this was precisely what he intended to do. His face remained imperturbable. By some miracle, Hugh managed to catch the hero's blood sphere with his sword. The hero said that Hugh calls himself a leader, but he has hardly changed. Hugh used a white shield to shelter from the attacks of our hero. He was so enraged that he wanted to try to silence our hero at any cost. But the hero deftly dodged his sword. Hugh thought it was the end, and attacked our hero with force. He achieved nothing, since the hero had too much strength and he did not understand where it came from. A former friend of Hugh's said that such a thing was definitely impossible, since the hero spent all his strength. The guy knew that his answer would not give anything to such a cowardly traitor. Hugh was even more enraged by this. He rushed with his sword straight at our hero. He even built a wall right around the hero, but the latter considered it useless. Hugh thought that the guy had nothing but those black balls. If everything had been different, he would not have fought from a distance. The guy thought that if he prevented him from retreating, he would not be able to do anything. The next moment, Hugh used the night weapon directly on our hero. He knew that even the best ranker would not survive such a blow, and finally that stubborn guy died. But it was not to be, because the hero remained safe and sound. Hugh did not understand how this could have happened and tried to draw his sword, but it was too late. The hero attacked him, grabbed his face and pinned him to the ground. Chaos thrived on the destruction of other worlds. It transcended time and space, wandering through dimensions, seeking one worthy to become its vessel. The worlds upon which chaos descended were devoured and met their demise. And the hero trained for over 100 years to confine the chaos within himself. Wolin said that he had done everything he could, and if it still didn't work out, then there was nothing more to be done. Beyond the bounds of this place, everything had already been decided. Once Woland asked his disciple what his name was. He could not believe that his teacher, in fact, was asking such a thing only after 100 years. The teacher admitted that he had simply gotten too used to him. Once he was called a heartless ghost, but now even he managed to get attached. And the guy said that his name is Aaron. The goddess once said that he succeeded. After what he had done, the young man was terribly sleepy. Woland explained that this was the influence of chaos, his body resisting his power. The second old man said that chaos was corroding his spirit, and from now on he would be constantly haunted by nightmares. The hero thought that if he fell into a nightmare, chaos would awaken again. He expected this and asked his teachers to kill him. The hero knew that he had to confine the chaos within his body and completely destroy it. He inquired of his teachers whether their goal was not to destroy chaos. The old man thought that if the young man knew everything, then why did he get involved with them at all? The hero explained that he had been betrayed and left with nothing, and he could not trust anyone. But from them, he felt a long-forgotten warmth. The youth confessed that retribution no longer meant anything to him. He only wanted to return the care they had shown. He asked them, finally, to name their names. It was his last request. They introduced themselves to him as Volan Mason, Shao's Damien, and Bergana. The hero spread his arms, satisfied that the teachers had told him their names, and said that he, Aaron, would die here for his teachers. But the old man approached him and put his hand on his shoulder, saying that he would not die here. They explained that he was their child and student. How could they kill him with their own hands? The hero tried to protest. He understood that they would then abandon their mission. Bergena explained that they would divide the burden of chaos within him and seal it together. She explained that the chaos within it was formed by their techniques, so their forces were capable of withstanding it. Spatial anchors weakened, he will return to where he belongs. The teachers themselves explained that they would be sealed somewhere deep down. They sent him back to Earth and told him never to look for them again. Iron was curious how far the power he gained from his mistakes could take him. He felt its grandeur, being one who had once nearly become a high-ranking ranker. He wondered how this would affect others, not his teachers, but people. But it was too simple. Hugh may not have been of the highest rank, but he was clearly above the 150th level. If the hero can find other techniques besides the Bloody Demon, then he will be unbeatable. This would not have been possible even for the leader of the Volcano Guild, or the high-ranking experts of the Silver Squad. Moreover, people from Einhart, Gehenna, and even to those who stand at the top of the world. This was a revenge planned for hundreds of years. But now that it was truly here, he felt no particular delight. Hugh asked to spare him. He said they simply had to betray him. He explained that otherwise they would simply have died. There was no other way to save them all. The hero got angry. He said that Hugh had become a captain while he himself suffered day after day. A former comrade wanted to tell him where the others were located. The hero noticed that Hugh had betrayed him once, and now he was talking about betrayal again. He explained that everyone would hear about his death, and the hero told Hugh to wait for the rest in hell. As soon as Iron dealt with his comrade and went outside, the slaves and guards intuitively understood everything. The man who broke the chains and emerged from the abyss struck down the black arrows and Hugh. The guy understood that the slaves would die anyway, so he decided to help them and aimed the black circles at them. The slaves thought that he would kill them, but the hero removed their slave marks. Suddenly, the cave began to collapse. The hero began to demolish it with his impact. The guy offered them either to die here or to get out alive. When he first met the teachers, he sought only to destroy the world. But having witnessed their sacrifice, he finally understood what needed to be done. He was going to devour and appropriate this world full of chaos. After some time, one of the ringleaders arrived at the place. He heard the report, but did not think it was true. This was Woody Chester. He decided that some beggar had been given the position, and now the guild had a bunch of problems. The slaves at that time during the interrogation did not remember anything at all, as if someone had erased their memory. He noticed that even the slave brands had disappeared, and the soldier informed him that only traces of some kind of magic circle remained. Woody thought that this someone was clearly not below the master level. The soldier explained that no traces of the combat master or player had been found. Woody, however, suggested that it could also be Gehenna. At that moment, another soldier reported that the dragon's corpse had disappeared. The commander thought that only the Gehenna could use a corpse without cleansing it. He ordered the soldier to contact the headquarters so that they would investigate every trace of Gehenna over the past year. Woody thought that if that Iron, who was about to become a high-level ranker, had not touched this, he would have been very famous by now. He also inquired what the hero's corpse had told him, and the soldier said that about a month ago he had entered the abyss. The guy assumed that in that case he would most likely already be dead. His body simply wouldn't withstand the poison. Woody ordered the soldier to find the remaining ones. In one of the cafes, they were discussing that the burial site of the Volcano Guild had been attacked. Rumors circulated that these were people of Gehenna. It seems they needed a dragon's corpse. At that time, the hero was in the dining room and thought that everyone was only talking about the guild. Although since they had attacked one of the 3 largest guilds, it was quite expected. Iron decided that soon they would all meet their end anyway. First, it was necessary to find the abode of Volan's teacher. This was the most effective way to become stronger. For someone like him, this was the only way to find people. The bartender at that time asked him what he would have. The hero ordered a Kahlua on the rocks, stronger and sweeter. The bartender replied that Kahlua without milk is not at all according to the recipe. The administrator approached the bartender and said that he would handle it himself. The old man did not understand what those ancient principles were, as if the guy had just come out of a portal after 5 years. Iron said that he would rather have come out in 100 years, and the manager thought he was some kind of demon. This was Chelsea Simon, the head of the soul branch of the black market. He asked the hero what he would be. The hero said that he needed a job, and the administrator inquired what kind of job he needed specifically. The guy explained that any would do. The main thing is higher than D rank. The administrator said that he had something suitable and handed the papers to the hero. There it was necessary to lure newcomers, lock them in the portal, and then demand a ransom from their parents. The victims were children of wealthy families, of which there were usually many. The fee was high. The hero folded the sheets, smiled, and said that it was a disgusting job. The administrator reached for the gun he kept under the bar counter and asked again whether the hero intended to get a job or not. He pointed the muzzle towards the guy and said that sometimes fools come along with stupid dreams of justice. Simon inquired whether Aaron had thought about those who would be left without work here. The hero explained that he likes everything and asked to tell people to reduce their thirst for blood. The administrator thought that now he could entrust the guy with the job since he noticed their auras. The man handed the phone to the hero and explained that he would contact him soon and also offered him something to drink. The guy explained that there could be problems with this because if he gets drunk, he'll fall asleep, and if he falls asleep, no one will be left alive here. The man, looking at Aaron leaving, thought that he was full of illusions, and therefore at this rate he did not have long left. At this time, a crowd of people greeting each other had already gathered in front of the D-rank portal. One of the guys explained that many newcomers would be joining them today. Howell, meanwhile, was worried, since this was his first journey. The guy explained that there was no need to worry, since his comrades had been with him for over 3 years. Also, in addition to the regular guys, there were wanderers on the team. The guy said that the newcomers should not worry, since the wanderers were battle masters whom he had also known for over 3 years. The hero at that time thought that it was quite normal to worry. The wanderers were known for being no worse than the demons of Gehenna. But among all those present, Aaron noticed a girl whose face showed not a trace of surprise. It seems he has finally found what he has been looking for a long time. Time passed, and Howell was grateful to his companion for helping him earn a lot of points. He inquired whether they could go hunting again tomorrow, since they hadn't told their parents. The guy smirked and said that he had thought it all through and that they shouldn't worry. When the guys scattered to their tents, the gang leader made an evil face and said that they should continue to believe that everything would be fine. At this time, a girl who remained calm during the encounter approached the hero sitting alone. She sat down with him and inquired what level of martial arts mastery he had attained. The hero explained that it was rude to ask about the level so bluntly. She asked the guy what his name was, after which, having learned his name, she shyly backed away. The girl thought that his name sounded quite familiar. At that moment, one fair-haired girl approached those sitting and said that it was now her turn, so the other girl could calmly go and rest. The girl got up from the log and admitted that even though their conversation was short, she really enjoyed it. He did not seem like a bad person to her, but for some reason a strange feeling still did not leave her. The next day, one of the guys informed that the portal would close very soon. The guy told Hool that the portal would close very soon, and if they didn't leave now, they would only be able to do it after killing the boss next time. Howell suggested in that case to go to the boss together. He explained that he is also a normal player, and if he runs away every time, afraid of getting hurt, he will never become stronger. In the end, it was decided to head towards the boss, but Hool was first tasked with killing minor monsters. The guy was waiting for this, so he immediately rushed into battle with his comrades. The portal closed at that moment, and one of the ogres loomed over Howell and said that they were much stronger than he had expected. He asked Hardy to help him, but he replied that there were already enough problems here and explained to the guy that he had to cope on his own. Howell did not think he would have to use the secret scroll, but there was no other option left. He tore the scroll using a fiery strike. At that moment, Hardy ran up to Howell and asked if he was all right. Howell explained dejectedly that his father had told him to use the scroll only in extreme cases because it was very expensive. Hardy inquired if the guy had any more such scrolls, but the young man replied that no. And then Hardy himself took the scroll and ordered him to tie up the poor guy. Howell found himself on the ground, bound, no longer able to move. Apart from him, other newcomers to the team were also implicated. Hardy approached the poor guy and said that he couldn't believe how easily he had fallen for it. Howell was about to say that he should stop joking like that, but he got a slap in the face. Hardy said that this was no longer a joke, and to start with, he was going to cut off his ear. But at that very moment, a girl with her own sword rushed at Hardy. They crossed blades, and the boy could not understand how she broke the magic shackles. She also used the aura of the sword and kept attacking. He realized that he was facing a master of martial arts, which is why the magic did not work. Another man told the boy to step aside, for martial artists must fight their equals. He said that her spirit is amazing, but will she cope with everything? The girl thought that an excellent master of martial arts in 3rd rank. This ratio was so-so. The man shouted that if she was not going to attack, the first move would be his, and he rushed at the girl. She was parrying his attacks, while he in turn did not understand what she was doing, as if she intended to defend herself forever. She explained that he should not underestimate her and began with attacks. At that moment, another guy flew up behind her and tried to hit her on the back of the head. The girl jumped back. She understood that it was not so easy to deal with just one wanderer. At that moment, Hardy turned to our hero. He did not understand why he was standing and not catching monsters all the time. He took only one step toward the girl and continued to stand still. The girl understood that starting from the previous day, she was even afraid to look him in the eye. Once the teacher Wolin said that he was a master of the divine demonic cult. The hero inquired of him whether the demonic cult was not the sworn enemy of all guilds, known for bringing destruction into the world. Voland explained that after his departure, the Combat Alliance began to spread propaganda favorable to them. They were just pitiful creatures, and the teacher asked his student that when he returns, he must deal with them. The hero understood that the girl could lead others around by the nose, but not him. He had no doubt that this power belonged to a demonic cult. A hero once told another slave that in the black market one could find the remaining followers of a demonic cult. They were said to save kidnapped people and lure them to their side. The hero did not think that he would find them so easily, but these deceivers themselves came to hand. Hardy was still trying to make our hero move, and together with the Wanderer, did not understand why he remained in place. The Wanderer assumed that since he was not moving, he could kill him and rushed at him with a sword. But in an instant, the sword was broken, and the hero ignited his black spheres. The guy did not understand how a sword filled with energy could break so easily. He understood that the hero was much stronger than him. Perhaps he had a transcendent level. One of the men shouted for them all to pile on him at once to kill him. Iron in turn suggested that since the portal was closed, their death no longer mattered. The Wanderer tried to stop him, but it was too late. The guy released his spheres and pierced the enemies. After killing the rest, the guy looked towards Hardy. But before he could do anything, a girl had already flown up to Hardy from behind. The next moment, she had already cut off his head, and it rolled along the grass. The hero assumed that it was his turn now, but the girl replied that she was not so stupid as to attack, knowing in advance that she would die. She explained that the hero got rid of them single-handedly, so it's better not to pretend that they're on the same side. She assumed that he must have a goal, and whatever it was, she intended to help him. In return, he had to spare her. She explained to him that if he didn't need her life, she would have been dead long ago. At that very moment, an enormous monster came out onto the field. This was the boss, and the hero ordered his new companion to deal with him. Time later, Howl, along with his companions, had already come out of the portal outside. The girl thought that she had let him go too easily. All comrades bowed before the girl and said that it was she who saved their lives. However, Howl did not understand why she had concealed that she was a master of martial arts and had joined the novice squad. The girl pointed to one of her guards and said that he would explain everything to them. The guard was going to accompany the kids home and tell them on the way. When the guys left, the hero turned to the girl and asked if her sect was celestial or bloody. She pretended not to understand, but the hero assumed that she could be a member of a demonic cult. He noticed that her facial expression had changed. At that moment, guards rushed at him from all sides and pointed their swords at him. The hero only noted that this was her last chance to say whether it was the celestial sect or the blood sect. The guards noticed a terrible pressure. They did not understand who this monster was. The girl shouted that she was in a bloody sect. She ordered her guards to sheathe their swords, for this was her patron. She said that whoever he was, if he wanted to, he would have killed them. The girl said that if the guy got an answer to his question, then he should have answered hers. She still did not understand what goal our hero was pursuing. She promised to help him, and now simply asked what goal he was pursuing. In the end, they were already riding in the same car together. The girl explained that she needed to breathe, and the next moment she tore her mask off her face. He realized that this mask was the mask of infinity. He noticed that the girl was quite beautiful and paid her a compliment. She in turn inquired whether this was his real face. The hero sadly explained that it had changed a little. Then the girl inquired whether his name was real, and he confirmed this fact. He assumed that her companions actually knew nothing about her, obviously. She had lied to them about being taken home. One only the Mask of Infinity cost an entire fortune. and he thought that money for it was not a problem. Therefore, the hero assumed that she was simply recruiting followers of the cult, and the girl admitted to it. At first, she was going to recruit them, gradually establishing connections, but Hardy ruined everything. The hero yawned and assumed that rich kids clearly bring a lot of donations. The girl replied that they were collecting donations, but not such an absurd amount as the association demanded. In the end, they needed a guild, with the cult's unification going hand in hand with the help of founding a guild, so it turned out to be very profitable. The hero thought that for players who cannot level up without progress, guilds are just the thing. Now it was her turn to ask questions, and she asked what kind of technologies he had used without a portal, but the young man did not want to talk about it. In the end, he clarified that for now, he cannot use his martial arts. It was a real shock for the girl, because she had seen him take off the head of the supreme master of martial arts, and now he was making such a statement. Now it was the guy's turn. He asked the girl what the cult had forgotten on the black market, and she said that they used the black market to recruit followers of the sect. The girl also explained that they had never killed or kidnapped. Those were dirty deeds. They had only pursued bad players and criminals. Iron concluded that their goal was to recruit noble followers, and she confirmed this fact. The hero smiled to himself, thinking that they were not as bad as his teacher Voland had described. The guilds were just typical villains. Finally, she wanted to ask him one last question, but she couldn't even move. She couldn't even raise a finger. Finally, the guy explained that they had arrived. The company was a huge corporation with influence over all of Asia, headed by a director of S rank. In his chapter stood Charlie Kennedy, and the hero could not have thought that the company building was the headquarters of a cult. The hero assumed that even if he didn't want to go, the girl simply wouldn't let him go. But the hero realized that if he refused, she would not leave him alone so easily. He assumed that if the girl was kidnapped, the persecution would stop, and inquired about this from her. The girl noted that it's better not to joke like that here. At that moment, screams were heard, and the man savagely rushed towards our hero. He did not understand how that one dared to threaten his lady. The girl tried to stop her grandfather, but it was too late. The hero caught his fist in midair. Sometime later, they were all sitting at the table, and Charlie said that he was a little mistaken. He offered them to eat calmly, for there was no poison there. The hero started eating and explained that the poison would not affect him anyway. He simply had not eaten properly for a long time. The old man thought that after the hasty investigation conducted following rumors that he was heading here, he learned that Iron was the killer of his own comrades. It was known that he had recently fallen into slavery to the Vulcan Guild. Outwardly, he was completely different from the description. And when he blocked the strike, the grandfather felt an inner energy, not the player's force. He did not understand who he really was. His inner energy was not much higher than his. The old man explained that he had come because the lady had said that she was in his debt. He offered the hero to say what he wanted, and the latter was going to give it to him. But first he had to promise something. The hero, wiping his mouth with a napkin, assumed that they wanted him to join the ranks of the sect's followers. The old man did not deny this. He said that as far as he knew quite a lot about their cult, and he wanted to find out where he had such knowledge from. The hero immediately realized that they were making inquiries about him. The old man assumed that he could not let anyone into the headquarters without first obtaining sufficient information. He said that the hero joined the cult when he was in the burial zone of the Vulcan Guild. He remembered that the hero had asked about the celestial bloody sect, but whose side was he himself on? The hero easily replied that he thinks he is now on the side of the bloody sect. The old man said that he was an official member of the cult, but the hero shouted that he did not intend to obey them. The hero said that the wolf had no reason to obey some dog. It was they who should have obeyed him. The old man furiously asked if the hero understood what he had just said. He explained that the old man would have to transfer the position of the bloody demon. The old man was not satisfied with this. He flared up and thought that the guy had crossed the line. His granddaughter tried to stop the old man, but he ordered her not to interfere. He inquired whether the hero knew what happens if one defies the bloody demon. The hero thought that if he considered objectively, he was now a level below Charlie. He was making rapid progress, but there was too little time, and his body was not yet able to bring out the martial art. The old man offered to give him a weapon, but the guy said that he couldn't use it, as it would lead to a catastrophe. The old man was still insisting. He was wondering if the young man would try to fight him. The guy replied honestly that if he uses martial arts, he won't seem like a small fry either. The old man became even more furious, thinking that they were openly mocking him. The old man said there was no point in chattering further and suggested the lad should attack. The hero inquired whether the bloody sect was really so noble. Charlie ordered him to remember that he was being treated as a guest, not an enemy. The girl turned to our hero and asked him to say that he had simply blabbed. The old man, meanwhile, did not understand why the girl was defending him. Iron understood that it was nonsense. Even she herself could hardly understand why she was doing it. It was too much. Even if he saved her life, it was already too much. Although deep down, he thought that she understood who exactly would save the sect in a difficult moment. For as he thought, Halen herself is a priestess serving the bloody demon at the head of the sect. The old man at that moment flew with his fists towards our hero. And it was at that very moment that a huge explosion occurred. However, this had no effect on the hero. The old man's spell was simply stolen. Control was taken over the grandfather's powers. The hero asked if they would now learn the technique of the bloody demon and ordered them to kneel. Charlie and the girl fell limp and welcomed the bloody demon. The old man did not understand how the player knew about the art of the bloody demon. Iron, in turn, inquired whether they were now ready to bestow upon him the title of the bloody demon. But Charlie said that the current bloody demon was already in charge of the sect, and this surprised our hero. In that case, the hero did not understand why the old man and his granddaughter knelt before him. Charlie explained that the art of the bloody demon was more plausible for this demon. He did not know how Aaron had mastered such an art, but it was the symbol of the bloody sect and the true sign of the bloody demon. For our hero, this was too funny. Now he understood why the sect was in such a state, for they had a fake blood demon. He inquired of the old man what position he held in the sect. Charlie replied that he was the left guard. The hero explained that the symbol is not the art of a bloody demon, but the true divine art of a bloody demon. The old man at that time thought that the hero was indeed a real bloody demon. He did not know how such a thing was possible, but the energy of divine art is undeniable proof. They bowed their heads again and explained that this was a greeting intended to honor the bloody demon. The hero sat on a chair and inquired about the current state of affairs in the sect. He asked to tell everything that could be useful when he would be in the courtyard of this impostor. He was told that there are now only 6 elders in the sect. The old man also explained that the current elders do not simply bring in a new blood demon, and about 10 years have passed since the arrival of the current demon. Then the hero inquired what would happen if he simply killed all the dissenters, and the old man replied that some members of the sect were very useful. He suggested that the hero personally find out from the elders about their intentions. Iron agreed to this, and after the old man's departure, his granddaughter continued to bow before the demon. The next day, the guards had already guarded the chambers of the bloody demon. A dressed-up girl came into the hero's room and bowed. He did not understand what was going on, and Halen explained that she had come to greet him in the morning. He did not understand why she dressed up just to say hello. He ordered her to stop doing this from tomorrow and get more sleep instead. But she said that a priestess should go to bed later and get up earlier than the bloody demon. The guy confessed that he doesn't sleep at all, and she couldn't believe it was true. He ordered her to no longer follow silly formalities and not to greet him in the morning anymore. The hero realized that the girl had suddenly understood that the bloody demon had previously been a player. He also inquired whether there had been any news from Storage. The girl replied to him that, unfortunately, nothing had happened yet. The hero said that his goal now is to get rid of that imposter. He also said that he needs to train. Once he asked his Voland when he would teach him combat techniques, and Voland said that it was a very good question. The techniques he was now studying were adapted in such a way as to fully utilize the power of all 3 teachers. To put it simply, each technique is a separate gear, and together they perfectly complement each other. If you do not follow a certain order, you cannot move to the next level. So until the divine art of the bloody demon is finished, he will not be able to use martial arts or weapons. The old man explained that it's better to live for yourself in order to understand these principles. The hero did not even want to imagine this pain. Thanks to the blood of the black demon, he had almost reached the limit but had not yet reached full development, while the dragon's blood was still circulating inside. He had to get rid of the poison and absorb only the life force. The girl at that moment did not understand what he was doing. The hero could not possibly be practicing the art of the bloody demon in such an empty hall. Finally, the hero came out. His figure had even changed. Finally, he succeeded. He reached the last stage of the divine art of the bloody demon True Blood. Sometime later, he was already gloomily dining in the canteen. He asked the girl if she wanted to taste the food. She only thought that it had been only a week, and he had become even stronger. She thought that without pure blood and a special ritual, it was impossible to practice it. How he had reached this level in an empty hall. The guy asked her again if she would eat or not. The girl bowed and said that next time she would prepare more food herself. The hero also said that he was not going to warn those who were weaker than him, and asked the kids to have a meal with him. The girl realized that he had noticed the squad of the Black Shadow. These were guards personally trained by the sergeant. In stealth, they were equal to the famous phantom assassins of Murim. Nevertheless, the hero waved to the guards and said what they were waiting for, and if they could come in faster and have lunch with him. The hero thought that real blood was not a bad feeling. He almost completely absorbed the blood of the Black Dragon. Now he needed to purify it, refining it to the true blood circulating within him. The only thing he lacked was time to shorten it. He first needed to seize control over the bloody sect. Meanwhile, the girl called him and explained that the food was ready. He approached Riss and said that he himself was going to deal with the food. He asked her if she had put too many spices. The girl fell to her knees. She thought it would taste better that way and admitted that she had committed a terrible sin, and she would be obligated for life. The guy wanted to respond to her, but then some noise was heard from outside. They had guests. The guards armed themselves and said that the man would not pass. This would not be Benny Henniston, 3rd Petty Officer, a cold-blooded master. Of course, they recognized him, but nevertheless said that such was the order of the left guard. The old man waved his sword. He was indignant that they would not let him pass. He explained that it was not the guards' fault. The old man decided to warn them one last time to step back, and then he would turn a blind eye to their rudeness. They apologized. At that moment, the old man rushed at the guard. He said that this is how a follower of the bloody sect should behave. But before he could harm the guards, a girl appeared before the old man. She screamed that they were not letting him through only because the left guard did not give permission. The old man was indignant, as if no one in the area understood what the left guard had in mind. He explained that this is a betrayal, since he's going to divide the bloody sect. Hylan explained that the bloody demon was chosen by her, the priestess. The old man asked to explain how a former player suddenly mastered the art of the bloody demon. He said that there are always imposters pretending to be bloody demons. If he was still a bloody demon, the law still did not allow the presence of 2 bloody demons at once. The old man explained that he had decided to deal with this in advance. The girl exclaimed that they would never be forgiven for this. Grandfather said that he had already decided everything for himself, and even if he had to quarrel with the left guard. But at that moment, Charlie appeared behind the old man and flew at him with his fist. He was indignant about what the elder was doing. He expected such an outcome, but did not understand why everything was unfolding so quickly. The old man explained that the Hwasan Guild had started to act. They had stumbled upon their trail. And if I tell about the bloody demon now, then only the heavens know what will happen next. Charlie explained that the Hwasan Guild had no reason to oppose the bloody demon. The old man explained that the new bloody demon could be a spy. Charlie was outraged. He thought that Benny had decided that he could not distinguish the true art of a bloody demon. Benny in turn explained that they also knew perfectly well that the celestial cult had been studying the art of the bloody demon for years. He explained that the new demon seeks to split the bloody sect. Charlie suddenly got angry and told Benny that he had definitely crossed the line now. The old man admitted that he could not stand aside when his comrade was voluntarily putting himself in harm's way. Charlie threatened to cut off his friend's limbs and then beg the bloody demon for forgiveness. At that moment, our hero appeared behind Benny and ordered them to stop. Charlie fell to his knees and immediately greeted his master. Benny turned around and realized that he hadn't even felt his presence. Charlie at that moment shouted to the old man to immediately bow before the bloody demon. Finally, Benny himself noticed the undeniable evidence that Iron was a bloody demon. He bowed and greeted the new bloody demon. The hero assumed that the blood sect was already falling apart, and they also decided to chop off each other's limbs. Iron also knew that the old man had come here either to kill, if his expectations were met, or to be killed. Benny confirmed the hero's suspicions. He said that the sect now serves a bloody demon. The hero ignored this information and asked Benny if he fit his parameters. The old man explained that he needed evidence. The guy extended his hand and released blood from it, asking if that was sufficient evidence. The old man did not understand how so much demonic energy had spilled from such a tiny drop of blood. He fell to his knees and finally greeted the great bloody demon. The old man introduced himself and explained that he would have to cut off his right hand for daring to doubt. But before Benny could cut off his arm, his sword flew far away. The hero explained that there was no need to cut anything off. After a while, all three were already kneeling in front of him, and Aaron asked them to sit on the couch. But Charlie resisted this suggestion and thought that over the week the guy had become even stronger. He could not believe that the bloody demon had reached the transcendent stage. The hero explained that he had not yet reached that level, and Charlie assumed that he would achieve it very soon. The current bloody demon has already reached this stage. Moreover, the first sergeant is also at the transcendent stage. Benny said that among the remaining elders there was no one left who would be willing to defect to the new demon. Since the hero was developing faster than expected, he personally had to overthrow the old demon. The girl explained that in this case, even the elders would have no other choice but to side with Iron. The hero assumed that the sect most likely already knew about him now, which is why they hurried to attack him. Suddenly, Charlie bowed so low that he hit his forehead on the floor. He apologized for thinking that the third elder would take their side. But the hero was not fazed. He said that now was the perfect time to overthrow the old bloody demon. If you enter the portal, you could end up in an unknown land, full of monsters. But if you entered the dungeon, you could get into another world. For the first time, the world learned about the existence of dungeons when monsters began to pour out everywhere through crevices. Humanity was swept away by them. Although later among the inhabitants of the earth, super players began to appear. They could not compare with the inhabitants of the conquered worlds who fought against the mysterious creatures. In the end, the world survived their invasion. Muram controlled Asia and Einhart ruled the West. These forces divided the world into spheres of influence. Murim, who came mostly from the territory of South Korea, made sure that the bloody sect was carefully hidden from prying eyes. Finally, the travelers approached some huge gates. The hero assumed that this structure did not fit into the current landscape at all. The girl thought that the door on the way to the bloody demon must stand out. She explained that if someone made it here, it meant they had overcome all the traps and magical barriers. Halen could say with certainty that Aaron was the only one who managed to go that far. The hero told her how he had previously been in the world of Murim. She was surprised and exclaimed enthusiastically that he was an excellent player. Iron assumed that if he had lived as usual, he would never have made it here. The girl approached the door and touched it with her hand to open it. When the door opened, the girl invited the bloody demon to come in and look around. Entering the gates, a rather lamentable sight opened up before the hero. He had heard that things were not going very well, but he did not think it was that bad. Iron inquired what had brought the fortress to such a state. Halen explained that few people know that Murim is part of a shattered world. This world had to be constantly maintained by magic stones, for example. The hero now understood why the sect was so urgently seeking followers. The guy asked, "Isn't the guild part of a huge corporation? Since they could have just gathered more magic stones." Charlie explained that it's not worth attracting too much attention. If the Hwasan Guild learned about the current state of the Blood King's fortress, then only the heavens would know the outcome. The girl explained that this was one of the reasons, but the elders also forbade hunting monsters in the portals. Hylan explained that they said that it would contradict the laws. The hero realized that he would have to work hard to restore everything here. He asked Benny if he also supported him, but he stated that he had always been against it. At that moment, the guards arrived. The girl recognized them as the Bloody Swordsmen, the squad of the Bloody Lord. They explained that they were ordered to escort them to the Lord. The girl thrust her sword forward, inquiring whether the swordsman intended to take them away by force. Benny also tensed up and prepared to draw his sword. The guard drew his sword and said that they had not come to fight, but apparently there would be no other way. The hero intervened and said that since the guards had come all this way to escort him, he would go. Finally, the satellites came to the throne room of the Bloody King's fortress. It turns out that this was the end of solo workouts. Charlie noticed that the Lord had become much stronger than before. One of the demon's servants turned to the left guard. He could not believe that they had rebelled against the Bloody Lord. Charlie explained that he had witnessed a real bloody demon. The Lord at that time scratched his beard and was surprised that besides him there was another bloody demon. His amusement was great. He voiced that absorbing the hero's power would allow him to surpass even the bloody god. But the hero said that all this was nonsense. He ordered him to stop talking nonsense and go down. The hero was going to show how pathetic the demon really was, and this made the man furious. One of the servants said that no one would approach the bloody demon without first going through them. Charlie was shocked that the elders decided to unite. Only the first elder apparently was not going to intervene. Charlie thought he was a battle master to the bone and always hated attacking in a mob, which gave some relief. But the difference between them was still too obvious. It would be ideal to get rid of the elders one by one. Charlie did not understand why Aaron had come here of his own free will. The hero noticed that Halen was trembling and told her not to be afraid. He explained to her that he could not lose to these guys. Otherwise, if he died, the whole world would fall. But for now, the hero was not going to destroy the world before finding his teachers. The guy explained to the girl that he had been pondering this for 100 years, what he would do when he returned. Of course, the first thought that came to his mind was revenge. But he also had to thank his teachers. He was going to find everything his teachers had left behind and restore it. They simply wanted the hero to create something valuable without destroying the world out of a sense of revenge. Iron understood their intention and was ready to follow him. He said for the enemies to attack, and in the next moment, one of the elders released smoke. Charlie shouted for the bloody demon to retreat. He rushed towards his master, but Benny pushed him away. They could hardly see the hero anymore and had no other choice left. The enemy elder thought that the poison of the ghostly blood was so potent that even the blood demon shunned it. He thought that death was inevitable and wanted to make a good impression in order to take the position of the left guard. Charlie was standing there scared at that moment, thinking that everything would end so simply now. The girl said that the ghostly poison of blood is deadly even for those who have reached the final stage. However, she still believed in the hero and that he would save the bloody cult. The hero at that time asked his opponents if that was all they were capable of. The elders were amazed that the hero was unaffected by this poison. Iron admitted that in that case, it was no wonder the cult was on the verge of extinction. He pointed his finger towards the elders and explained that they could not even imagine what kind of masters were walking outside. The hero said that they ignored the priestess and the left guard when they tried to tell about what was happening outside. One of the elders shouted for everyone to rush at him all at once instead of listening. Hundreds of hands and swords flew at once at our hero, but he stood with an imperturbable face. He said that the bloody demon is so revered because he is everything for the sect. One of the elders realized that he could not move at all. Iron asked the left guard whom he should spare. That one in turn named a couple of people, and after that, all the rest simply shattered into pieces. The hero explained that if they had mastered the bloody techniques, then they would certainly not be able to hide from the divine art of the bloody demon. He inquired why, in that case, the false blood demon still had his head on his shoulders. At that moment, the Lord could not stand it, drew his sword and plunged it into his arm. In the next moment, he used the art of the bloody demon's sword. The hero was not at all impressed. Even when the bloody dragon rushed towards him, Lord was going to tear Iron into pieces and leave only a bloody lake of blood. But the hero used a bloody shield which saved him from the attack. He said that his teacher did not create any art of the bloody demon sword. The guy explained that his teacher had never mixed the divine art of the bloody demon with any sword art. The Lord thought about the fact that the divine art of the bloody demon was created by the hero's teacher and could not believe it. Lord could no longer bear these stupidities and rushed towards the hero with a sword. But the hero blocked his sword of the bloody demon with his palm. Iron sent flying blades towards the Lord. These were needles of bloody demon energy. He used the energy of the bloody demon and yawned wearily, standing aside. These needles sucked out blood and destroyed the inner power of the Lord. The Lord parried the blow and shouted that he had never heard of such a skill. After that, the enraged ruler summoned the art of the bloody demon's sword, the sixth form. He was going to completely destroy the hero. But this time, the guy decided to play by the rules of this weirdo. He created from the blood magic of his palm a small bloody dragon. The Lord roared with laughter. He thought that this pitiful worm was all that Iron was capable of. The next moment, the big dragon swallowed the little one. At that very moment, an explosion occurred, forcing the others to cover their eyes. Lord felt that the hero had reached the extreme level of the demon realm at that moment. When their forces clashed, the hero said that the Lord was just a fool who came from nowhere with the divine art of a bloody demon and suddenly took the throne. He assumed that the man was on the side of the celestial sect. Iron turned out to be right, and now he had a lot of questions. But at that moment, the Lord became completely enraged and took on a completely different form. The girl thought that the guise the man had assumed was absolutely impossible, for he had become a bloody god who intended to destroy them all. The hero realized that the enemy had used the reverse flow of blood, a desperate last struggle. The Lord threatened to devour Aaron and become a bloody god. The next moment, he was already pouncing on him with his powerful attack. But the hero easily and calmly caught his fists. he realized that the Lord was planning to suppress him with a stronger inner energy. The Lord shouted that his level of inner energy significantly exceeded the guy's level. In the next moment, he used the technique of absorbing the bloody demon. For more than 20 years, the Lord was revered as a bloody demon, devouring the blood of tens of thousands of people. He did not know how the hero deflected all his blows, but the onslaught of inner energy, amplified by the backflow of blood, he definitely should not have withstood. Iron, in turn, only arrogantly asked how he was going to defeat him with his technique. The villain did not understand how the guy could talk so calmly during a serious battle requiring attention. The guy explained that in a regular battle, the energy level is crucial, since the opponent must be suppressed with absolute power. But the technique of absorbing the bloody demon from energy did not depend in any way. It absorbed and did not burn. This time, the hero used the technique of absorbing the bloody demon. The Lord howled furiously in pain. Charlie and Halen were amazed at what was happening right before their eyes. Suddenly, the Lord found himself in pitch darkness. In his eyes was reflected a demonic crimson flame. At that moment, the hero approached the villain from behind like a shadow itself and asked the old man if he could see everything. The Lord turned to the boy and burst into tears. Before completely withering away, he finally acknowledged him as the bloody god. The hero felt that the blood he had consumed was full of impurities. He needed to clear it of everything unnecessary and leave everything useful. Then gather all the energy in the Dantian, and finally to achieve the pinnacle of pure blood. Such was the divine art of the bloody demon. Charlie realized that it was just a game. The bloody cult needed changes. Even if the bloody god had appeared in the cult earlier, they still would not have had a future. Therefore, they crossed over to the other side, understanding that defeat was inevitable. They hoped that their sacrifice would awaken the bloody cult. But the Lord was the first to learn and perfect the divine art of the bloody demon. Moreover, in the last seconds of his life, he nevertheless acknowledged the bloody god. Charlie turned to the priestess and told her that she had foreseen the outcome of the battle, to which the girl smiled. She simply acknowledged the true bloody demon. Finally, the hero turned and looked over everyone present in this hall. Charlie shouted to the first elder. He did not understand how the first elder, seeing everything that had happened so far, could not acknowledge it. But at that moment, the first elder fell to his knees and praised the bloody demon. The other servants bowed together with the old man. The hero thought that they were just like him. On the ruins of life, they also lost everything and dreamed of revenge. They barely survived, awaiting the emergence of a new bloody demon. As a student of his masters, he had to answer their call. Charlie realized that he was the very bloody lord they had all been waiting for. He finally saw in him the true bloody demon. The cult members were still worshiping the bloody demon on their knees. The hero asked them to stop and said that he knew how it would all end. He asked everyone to stand up since he did not like that. The guy summoned the heroine and asked her what a doctrine was, and she explained that it was a set of rules that a ruler could change. Aaron realized that he himself could now determine how his subordinates should behave. Suddenly, the withered former head stirred. Then he saw this and hurried to draw his sword to finish him off. But the hero stopped him, saying that the old man had no chance anyway. The former leader was finally broken. The hero reasoned that he was going to deal with the Celestial clan as well. But the first elder did not understand what he was talking about. The guy decided to show him and pointed his fingers towards the former lord. The old man arched completely from this magic. The elders recognized this as the transformation technique. Charlie was surprised that no one had noticed the reverse transformation technique before. And at that time, Aaron explained that he had always thought that the Lord was from the Celestial clan. This was the true technique of a Celestial demon. The hero inquired of Halen whether the pond of 10,000 bloods was still there. Finally, the girl led him after her. He was full of energy and his whole body was purified. For someone who was not from the bloody cult, the flow of demonic energy would seem too heavy. They arrived at the place. It was the pond of 10,000 bloods, where the blood of all occultists was collected. The girl explained that it was here that the cult leader shed his blood in order to perform the blessing ceremony. The girl suggested that he prepare ceremonial robes. The hero asked the girl who, in her opinion, God was. Without hesitation, she said that this bloody demon standing right in front of her is the true God. But he was clearly not expecting such an answer. His interest was in the classical conception of God, which makes him God. Then the girl explained that it was a supernatural being that fulfills human desires and leads them to prosperity. And then the hero confirmed her assumption. Then he asked why he in particular was called a god. Yes, he showed them all their place, but the punishments did not make a god out of him. He said that no one had shown her that yet. At the next moment, he released his blood straight into the lake from his finger. All employees suddenly felt a strong vibration. The hero felt the energy of all the cult followers in the fortress. He created a whole bloody tornado in front of himself. The priestess admitted that she had not even read about such a thing. He explained that in the times of the teacher Voland, such was not possible. The divine art of the bloody demon he studied differed somewhat from the usual method. Woland explained that the king of demons said that the divine art resembles the magic of the ruined race of Gehenna. So when the demon king began working on reinterpreting the divine art, the teacher helped him a little. To test the power of the new divine art, they needed strength. In the technique, there was a new feature. The divine art of the bloody demon combines magic and combat techniques. The bloody art worked like a spell. Since God had the power to punish, he must also have the power to bestow blessings. Otherwise, he would not be God. The next moment, the tornado dissipated and a bloody rain poured down from the sky. The girl also felt vibrations throughout her body, but the hero reassured her and said that when she woke up, she would feel different, after which the girl fainted. In the vicinity of the castle, everyone also fell unconscious. The next day, everyone already felt absolutely wonderful and young. Everyone became younger and stronger. Their eyes even reddened, symbolizing the divine art of the bloody demon. The hero asked the third elder to cut his finger and show his blood. He did it, and everyone saw the purple blood flowing from his finger. The third elder said that he had lost consciousness, regained it, and now could use twice as much inner energy. The hero explained that everything depended on the level they had before. Probably the left guardian and the first elder were also at the level of purple blood, but the priestess was on the next step, on the step of black blood. He explained that now the hero affects her strength. In the matter, a new ability of the divine art of the bloody demon. From now on, those who study the bloody art and join the cult will gain power, but nevertheless, they will become its debtors. The hero said that he would like to see how the occultists outside were doing. The hero finally saw people. Even the most starving and sick residents became livelier. But the guy knew that they still didn't have enough money. Charlie said that they were sorry because all this happened because of the guards and elders. The hero explained that the left guard was not to blame. It was all the previous lord and the deceased elders. He said that they would pay dearly for ruining the mine. They would not find peace even after death. Charlie said that their affairs are very bad. They have even already sold a share of the company. The guild was on the verge of collapse. They were going to clear a couple of portals, but then a hero appeared. Aaron looked up at the sky and asked the teachers why they had sent him to these people. The main problem was the lack of elders. The first elder was in charge of the Palace of the Bloody Sword. The second elder was in charge of the Palace of the Bloody Gold. Each palace played a specific role, and at the head stood the leader. He said that now all the elders are dead, and the heroes explained that you can simply promote the deputies. They were trained by the elders, so they should have coped. Charlie said that they were loyal to their elders, and anyone who refused to swear allegiance to the bloody demon must be executed. The guy, in turn, did not understand why they should get rid of people when there were already few workers. The hero also said that Charlie would become the leader of a cult. He explained that the cult leader is not a bloody demon. There must be additional leaders. It's just that no one has yet been able to fully take on such responsibility. It is necessary to separate the role of God from the leader. Let the corporation crumble. It had no future anyway. The hero confirmed his words. He thought that it was Charlie who should become the course leader. The servants bowed and approved the decision of the new bloody demon. The man knelt before the hero and promised to prove that he was worthy of bearing such responsibility. Iron put his hands on Charlie's shoulders and said that the man was saying exactly what he wanted to hear. When the allies pondered over the ideas, Halen asked to leave everything to her. She said that she understands better than anyone what is happening behind the walls of the sect. The hero thought that since she ran a large guild, she should have been able to handle this task as well. He gave her all the rights to dispose of the sect in order to rectify her position. A week later, the girl came to his office with a report. She said that all the company's shares and assets had been sold. Hylan explained that the company has already outlived its time. She said that they had blocked the entrance to the fortress of the Bloody King and had devised a way to keep the company afloat. Since a significant portion of the shares had already been sold, further growth of the corporation would only benefit others. The hero praised the girl, saying that he had not trusted her in vain. She also told about a conversation with the third elder. He said that their guild was influenced by the Hwasan Guild. The guy thought that now was not the best time. He was able to capture the fortress of the Bloody King so quickly, due to the connection between the divine art of the Bloody Demon and the occultists. The girl explained that she decided to start with a clean slate. She planned to create a guild that would be built from scratch. Hyland knew that there were already enough guilds, so this was even reckless. But their bloody cult is no longer what it used to be. The hero explained that maybe they had become a little better, but they still had plenty of difficulties. The cult lacked experience. Battling monsters in the portal was completely different from fighting people. He told the girl not to worry, for they would gain experience and become stronger. The hero inquired how the girl wanted to name the guild, and she replied that she wanted to name it in his honor. But the guy said that the guild would be called the Retelling Guild. He explained that she would now be the leader of the guild. Iron said that he could do nothing outside the fortress. He said that Halen was just right for the role of the new guild leader, since nothing was known about her. The guy thought that Lydia Hvasan was still following him. Meanwhile, in the D-rank portal, participants were battling with huge monsters. The guy plunged the sword into the monster's heart and explained that the hunt was over. But it was not the case, since the monster still remained alive. The guy did not understand how he survived, despite the fact that he pierced his heart. At that moment, Halen arrived and cut the monster into pieces. She tossed the guy a vial and explained that if the weapon is not covered with sacred charms, the undead will not die. The remaining members of the group shouted that everything had been cleared. The hero explained that now they have the art of absorbing the bloody demon. They could use it since the hero was associated with Halen. Meanwhile, at the harbor bar, a man was telling how one of the guilds had been causing a lot of noise lately. The girl replied that the guild allegedly belongs to some Halen. The shadow of our hero appeared again in front of the bar counter. The administrator took out a bottle and said that if he harbored a grudge because of what happened last time, it should be stopped. The hero looked at the glass filled with alcohol. When the guy drank it, the administrator explained that the black market had long been on good terms with the bloody cult. The administrator inquired whether the hero had come with a personal mission from the cult. The hero explained that he needed access to the black market. The administrator said that Aaron did not have sufficient authority for such a request. Then the boy handed him the guild token, and the man was surprised that he could be a great elder. The guy informed that the bloody demon of this generation was deposed. The administrator was surprised. He thought that could not be. The hero smiled and said that the administrator speaks as if he knows a great deal about the king's bloody fortress. He realized that a rat had settled in the bloody king's palace, reporting everything to others. The hero sent a barb towards the administrator's pride, and the latter in turn looked sternly at him. He assumed that the administrator could be a member of the sect or one of the elders. The administrator told Iron not to do what he might later regret. The hero at that moment felt evil glances from the hall directed at him. He removed the thorns from the administrator and inquired about the black market. He in turn said that he could not guarantee any authority from his position. He had to first report to the top and get permission. Aaron said that he needed to meet with the Black King, and this shocked the administrator. In the next moment, everyone in the hall, including him, pointed their swords at the boy. The administrator explained that you can't just shout out his name and go unpunished. He thought that the hero was not from a bloody cult and did not know what goal he was pursuing. The blade slightly pierced Aaron's throat, and he explained that blood was flowing. She flowed all the way to the administrator's hand, and he felt a burning pain. The guy explained that the blood of true followers of the sect is resistant to poison. It was useless to give him poisoned whiskey. He said that people should not worry. He was not going to kill. He did not want the ties between the Black King and the Bloody Sect to completely collapse. The hero said that the Black King, in order to repay for his life being saved, helped the bloody cult. The guy turned to the other people poking him with swords in the back and said that he was the new bloody demon. The administrator recoiled from shock and fear. He could not believe it. He thought that in this case, the guy really had the right to meet with the Black King. The king himself mentally ordered them to lead Aaron, and the people obeyed. They were walking through some noisy club filled with people. The administrator, meanwhile, still considered the hero the ruler of the fallen world. For the Black King who ruled the darkness over the entire continent, he was nobody. But nevertheless, the man did not understand why the hero wanted to meet with him in person. When they reached the guards, the man said that Aaron would have to go on without him. The guy followed the guard. He thought that the guard was so strong, and it was even absurd that he was standing and guarding the doors. And the people in the bar, most of them were high-ranking members of the Black Sect. Finally, they entered the office of the man who beckoned him over. The man explained that he is the owner of this place and the Black King. The guy sat down on the armchair, and the man offered him a magnificent drink. But Iron said that he doesn't drink because he doesn't get drunk anyway. Then the man asked what the hero wanted to meet him for. The hero asked why all this time the Black Sect had been helping the Bloody One. The man put the glass on the table and said that the information about the change of the Bloody Demon turned out to be quite valuable. The hero assumed that in that case, not all the rats had actually died. The man said that they could now consider each other comrades in exchanging information. He said that appointing Charlie as the leader was the right decision. He was curious whether the leader of the Bloody Sect and the Bloody King were acting together. The hero only smiled. He explained that he had assumed that information had to be paid for. The man pointed his finger at the guy and said that he had many questions for him. Captain of the Volcano Guild team Hugh died at the monster burial site. He went there after hearing about the death of one of the slaves. On the same day, a huge hole was found in the ceiling. Most of the slaves of the Volcano Guild had escaped. At the same time, someone from the black market came, mentioning an incident that happened 5 years ago and took an order. Could it have been a coincidence? The hero said that he did not believe in coincidences or fate. He created his own destiny with his own hands. The man laughed. He realized that the hero had deliberately left clues about himself. He in turn said that he had come so far only thanks to them. For the guy, it was still quite difficult to find out everything himself about the Black Sect. The man smiled. Even a tear of laughter rolled down. Now he thought that they would get along. He spread his arms and asked Aaron what he needed. Time passed. The man had already entered the room and knelt before his mistress. He did not understand how an ordinary player acquired the power of martial arts mastery and became a bloody demon. Little was known to the man about the hero's past. He told the lady that at first he thought it was the work of the Vulcan Guild, but they didn't really know anything either. The lady answered in fear that it was a monster. She ordered the man to promise the hero anything he desired, and she asked that the hero himself come to her in person. She thought that finally it had happened. The next day, the guy was twirling bloody balls in the air and thinking that all of this had been risky. He was interested in learning about their strength, but not to such an extent that he could definitely not cope with that guy now. But the hero was still convinced that they would never help the cult without a reason. The teacher said that both the Celestial Sect and the Bloody One were equally important. But since ancient times, one group had secretly helped the Bloody Cult, and her name was Mona Hassel. After a while, a scream rang out in the sect building. It was Halen screaming in surprise. Right in front of them stood none other than the man from the Black Sect.